Good morning. This is your math sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is going to be solving with Desmos. But before we get into solving with Desmos, we are going to review some problem types. We're going to solve some inequalities, and we're going to review solving literal equations. So let's get going, beginning with the solving with the inequalities. So first off, I only have one variable. When I only have one variable, I only have variables on one side. I probably should rewrite this so that the variables are on the left. So I'm going to rewrite this equation, and I have negative 2m plus 2 minus 3, and I have a 9, and I need to flip my inequality because we flipped the entire equation because ultimately we always want the variables on the left and the numbers on the right when we're doing this. We just find for inequalities, we're more likely to graph it correctly if we do so. Well, I can combine this two, and I have negative 2m minus 1 less than or equal to 9. Well, I have a constant. Actually, I have two constants. I have a negative 1 and a positive 9. Well, the goal is to isolate this variable just like it is with solving any equation. And so I need to move this negative 1, and I'm going to do that by adding positive 1 because that will cancel this out and turn it into a 0. Now I have negative 2m less than or equal to 10. Divide both sides by negative 2 because this is being multiplied, so we undo multiplication with division. And this is m, and this is going to be negative 5. We know we have a line underneath it, so we're going to have a solid. But what we have to be careful here is if you notice, I divided by a negative. When we divide by a negative, we need to flip our sign. So our sign is now facing this direction. So that's our arrow, and it's headed towards positive infinity. All right, continuing on with this, we're going to distribute, and we'll have negative 3 minus 24x minus 36 is greater than negative 111. Now we have like terms. I can combine this 3 and this 36, and I end up with negative 24x minus 39 is greater than negative 111. We have two constants, and I always want to isolate the variable. So I need to move this 39 to the other side because I need to get it away from the x. So I'm going to do that by adding 39. So we have negative 24x. And if we take our calculator, negative 111 plus 39, we end up getting negative 72. All right, dividing by a negative, and this gives me 3, a positive 3, and we know that because checking the triangle. Now, we divided by a negative right here. This means the direction of my sign changes. So we're at positive 3, no line, so it's a hollow, but it's facing this direction, and it is headed off to negative infinity. Okay, continuing on, we are going to solve some literal equations, actually four of them, and we're going to solve this one for m1. I'm going to rewrite this as parenthesis g, parenthesis m1, parenthesis m2 over d squared equals f. Well, we're looking for m1, but the first thing is that bothers us is we have a fraction here. Well, we can undo that fraction. We can undo the division because that's what the fraction line means by multiplication. So I'm going to put a d squared up there and a d squared there. These will drop off and become 1. Now I have parenthesis g, parenthesis m1, parenthesis m2 equals f d squared. Well, as the parentheses indicate, these are being multiplied, so I need to undo the multiplication, but I want to be left with m1. Well, to undo the multiplication, I need to divide by what I don't want. I want m1, I don't want g, and I don't want m2. So G and M2 are going down here, and G and M2 also have to go to the other side, because what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. So these two cancel out, and I end up with M1 equals FD squared over GM2. And that's my final answer. Okay, this next one. So this is a fairly straightforward one. We're looking for Y. So I have two terms on this side, one term, two terms. I need to move this 2x. Well, that's technically a positive 2x. So I need to move it by doing the opposite or inverse, which is a negative 2x. So this becomes negative 3y equals 8 minus 2x. The next thing I need to do is divide by the coefficient, which happens to be a negative 3. And I end up with y equals 8 minus 2x minus 3. However, we're not supposed to have negatives in the denominator, which means I need to multiply by negative 1, which will ultimately switch every sign. So this will become a positive, this will become a negative, and this will be a positive. So my final answer should be y equals 8 plus 2x over 3. All right, this next one, it really looks scary because it has a fraction. But fractions we have a nice trick for that hopefully by now we are fairly comfortable with. We know we're supposed to be distributing, we're supposed to be multiplying. So if we're looking to get the f by itself, we need to undo multiplication. Well, undoing multiplication is division. But for fractions, dividing fractions easy as pie, flip it and multiply. So this becomes a 1, and this just is 9/5 C equals F minus 32. Well, I'm looking for the F, so I need to move this minus 32. Well, it's a constant, so I'm going to do the opposite and add 32. And now I have 9/5 C plus 32 equals F, or F equals 9/5 C plus 32. All right, the next one. We're looking for C, but once again, we have this fraction. But we can make it a whole lot better if we get that n out of the denominator. Well, that means dividing by n, so the opposite of division is multiplication. So this goes away, and I have r minus c equals pn. Okay, I need to solve for c. Well, I need to move this r, so minus r. Now I have negative c equals pn minus r. Problem is I can't have that. So I need to either divide by negative, multiply by negative. Either one of those works. But ultimately, if I multiply this side by negative 1 and I multiply this side by negative 1, this becomes a positive c, and every single one of these signs changes, and this will be negative pn plus r. That's correct. It's also correct to write c equals r minus pn. Both of those are correct responses. Okay, so we're going to move on to Desmos, and I hope this works because this is the first time I'm probably sharing a screen like this, but hopefully we can get this, hopefully I can get this to work. So hopefully you're looking at my screen, and I have Desmos up there, and I have the Texas Desmo Testing Edition because that's what we're going to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and type something in, and actually, you know what? I'm going to switch back for just a moment. Let's see what happened if I stop the share. All right, so we're going to solve this equation. All right, but we're going to solve it in Desmos. And when you solve it in Desmos, we have certain things we're going to have to do. We're going to have to make this a 10, and we're going to change every letter to an N. And we have one other thing. I wrote equal sign, and we can't use an equal sign. We're going to have to use what's known as a tilde, but we're just going to call it a squiggle. All right? So let's try that out. Let me switch back and see what happens when we do that, because this is, and we're going to share that. And I'm going to go ahead and type that into the screen, what I had. So 10 parenthesis n plus 3, close the parenthesis, minus parenthesis, negative 9n minus 4. Can't use the equal sign, so I'm going to press the shift and the tilde, which is right under the escape key. Then n minus 5 plus 3. Now you can solve this by hand, but if you notice real quickly, it gave us the answer right away. When we found out that n equals -2. All right, so n equals -2, and I'll write that down, and I'm going to switch back to my screen in just a second. So n equals -2. So I'm going to stop the share for a moment, or at least try to. So we got n equals -2, and we wrote that down. All right, so here we have a b. Well, we can't have b's. We're going to have to change those into n's. So this becomes -3n equals n minus 10 n minus 6. Once again, we can't have equals. We have to use the tilde or the squiggle, all right, which is under the escape key. All right, so shift plus that key will get you there. So we're going to switch back. All right, and we're going to type in that equation. So, oops, I just bumped my camera. That's not good. So -3n shift tilde n minus 10 parenthesis n minus 6. And if we notice, it shows up giving us n equals 10 as our answer. So in this case, n equals 10. All right, swapping back. So we're going to this next one. And here's what we're going to have to put in. 3/4, 12 n minus 8. And by now we should know that this is a squiggle, not an equals. 12. Oops. And 3/4, we're going to have to arrow over, and then we're going to press 12 n minus 8, close those parentheses, shift tilde or squiggle, 12. And I get an answer of n equals 2 right here. Stop share. Let's go back. And we have one more. Negative parenthesis 1 plus 7n. Change the equal to a squiggle. 36 plus 6, -7 minus n. And we're going to go share the screen and try this next one out. And negative shift parenthesis 1 plus 7n shift 36 plus 6 parenthesis, -7 minus n. And it tells us that n equals 5. So n equals 5. Now, there's something I have here that I've done that I don't like that I want to fix. So I'm going to go back. We're going to look back at all our answers. This says n equals -2. Well, that's what I got from Desmos, but really it's x. So my real answer is x equals -2. So I need to circle that. Over here, the next one, it says n equals 10, but we're really working with b, so I should have b equals 10. Then over here, I had n equals 2, but we really should have x equals 2, not n equals 2. And then over here on the last one, we have n equals 5, and we really should have x equals 5. Okay? Well, I hope this helps with solving equations with Desmos, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you for watching.